All righty, we are here with Coach and Principal, Mr. Andy Wyckoff. Thanks for coming in today.
I'm glad to be back with a legend, Mr. Eschan.
Yeah, here we go. We don't want anything tough.
Uh-huh.
So you started out as a teacher,
I did.
and that was in what year?
I started teaching at Conner High School in 1995.
Okay.
I was fresh out of college. My first year, I taught a half day, and I was in the in-school suspension room for a half day, which was a little bit different, but it was enjoyable. It got my feet wet for some of the stuff I was going to do later on. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot.
The in-school suspension
Yes,
room?
yeah. You get to deal with all kinds of kids up there. You get to learn how to take kids in, how to work with kids that are upset, kind of get them back in place. The goal was to get them back into class. So, so we did a lot of work with kids that needed help.
Like a little rehab.
Oh, yeah.
A little rehab assignment.
Me and Mr. Shipley did a lot of work with kids up
Shipley. I
there.
remember
Yeah.
Mr. Shipley
Yeah.
too. I graduated in '98 and played baseball, and a lot of the baseball players seem to have detention on certain days. But we were always happy to see you when we had a game. We got out
I ran that too. Yeah.
We got a little early.
You always made it to game on time.
Yeah, we made it to the game on time. Yeah, it was good. So teaching, and then I know you were the baseball coach after Thomas.
Yep.
And the soccer coach before that.
Yep.
So how many years of coaching?
So right out of high school, I took a year off from coaching, playing, et cetera, et cetera. I went to Northern, and then in 1991, I became the assistant soccer coach at Conner. 2 years later, I became the head coach, 1993. So I was 22 years old coaching kids.
So you weren't even teaching yet.
No, I was 22 years old coaching kids that were 18. That was a little bit different. And then I coached soccer until 2001, and I coached baseball, started in 1997, I think. 1998, I was a JV coach.
Yep.
And then coached JV for 2 or 3 years, and I took the varsity, I think the year after Carrie Page graduated, which would have been 2000, I think.
No, I was 98, so Page would have been 99.
Okay, so, but the year after he graduated, I took over in 2000.
2000.
Yeah, and I coached baseball until my daughter was born in 2006. So that overlapped a little bit. I did baseball and soccer, which was very busy. So I did soccer all fall and then baseball in the spring. And then eventually I gave up the soccer because I liked doing the baseball so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you had pretty good successes on the baseball field. And you guys won the region for the first time?
No, we didn't win the region. We made the semis a couple times. We made the finals. Never got to the big dance. Had a couple of mishaps, but the kids that I had were fantastic. The kids were great. Sent a lot of kids to college to play ball.
Yep.
Sent a lot of kids to college to do other really good things too. Several of them are doing very, very, very well. I stay in contact with a lot of those kids.
That's cool.
Those were the best times that I had, I think, as a coach, were the early 2000s coaching the baseball team. I had really good kids.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
And then right when I got done with NKU, I was missing baseball terribly. But I came in, you let me help you out for a little bit, a couple of years.
That would have been 02, 03, somewhere in there?
Yeah, I finished at Northern in 02, so it was 02 or 3 or 4, somewhere in there.
That's when we went back to back there to the semis for a couple of years. We had Alvy and Fogel, and Adam Rainey was helping, I think, at that point.
But I was after those guys.
Okay, I had really good kids all the way through the time I got done. We had really good pitching, really good hitting. And a lot of those kids played a couple different sports too. The football team was excellent at that time. They had a couple of undefeated
bunch
teams.
of good athletes.
Yeah. Trevor Stellman was on those teams.
Yeah, Trevor was there.
Yeah, who later on coached at Thomas More for football. I mean, we had really good athletes, really good kids. And back then, it's a little bit different than it is now. Kids would play 2 and 3 sports back then.
Yeah.
Now they tend to specialize. See very few kids that play baseball, basketball, football. But back then, a lot of my kids played football, wrestled or played basketball, and then would play the baseball too.
Yep.
So.
Well, yeah, back when I was in high school, graduated in '98, but seemed like all the coaches wanted us playing different sports to stay in shape, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of the AAU has changed that. A lot more kids play the specialized AAU stuff now, whereas we actually have several kids at Conner that don't play at Conner. They just play the prep volleyball or basketball and stuff like that. That's gone a little bit that way, and some of the other athletes in some of the non-contact sports will do those types of things now. Whereas when you and I were in school and when I coached, high school sports were it. Now it's changed a little bit, but I mean, we've had great success at Connor with the sports lately as well. We've got great basketball teams. We've had really good success with the football and the baseball. Softball's coming back. I've got a guy that's dedicated to the program doing really good things now. So we're on the upswing right now, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is crazy how before, to go to college, you had to play high school ball of some sort.
Yeah.
Now with all the AAU and all the other stuff, you don't have to.
Nope.
Which I guess could be good.
Yeah.
Doesn't help the high school level.
No,
I
it
guess.
doesn't. And when kids want to specialize, I think it takes away from a lot of the camaraderie we have at school. I think we're better off when kids play high school sports and other kids are there to support them. Girls come to see boys, boys go to see girls. Football comes to see soccer, soccer sees football, and so forth. But we've got a lot of that at Connor. Our kids really get along with each other. Our kids do really good things for each other. And we've just got a really good thing rolling out there in Hebron. So.
Yep, really like it. Love my time there. And my two boys are going to be there.
Glad to hear it.
Make it around. So Tripp will be a freshman. He's a sixth grader, so 3 years.
I might still be there. Yeah.
He might be there.
Yeah.
And then the little one, you might want to get out before he gets there.
Yeah, so he must take after his dad.
A little bit. So you've seen a lot in your time at Connor.
Yes.
You graduated in what year?
I graduated from Connor in 1990.
Okay.
And I've really never left.
You haven't?
No.
For 4 years in college, but you were still coaching at that point.
Right.
You've been there.
Yep.
That's a lot of dedication to that school.
So, yes. So I started there sophomore, the fall of 1987. So I've basically been there with the exception of 1 year, 1987 through now.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of changes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that leads us into this. So Burlington, Hebron area, those are the kids that go to Connor. Well, Burlington's kind of split now with the addition of Cooper.
Right.
So what's like the evolution? What do you think is, I mean, you've seen a lot. I don't know if you can break that down in a few minutes.
So starting with the opening of Cooper in about 2011, I think it was, anything north of Kentucky 18 stayed with us. Anything south of Kentucky 18. So we basically have North Burlington, Petersburg, and Hebron. A lot of our clientele has changed somewhat. We've gotten a lot more diverse. But with the explosion in the warehousing and the building in Hebron, I mean, we've continued to grow and grow and grow. So when they opened Cooper in 2011, we were at 1,750 kids. They took about 750 kids out, so we were down to 1,000, and now we're back up to 1,500 plus. So Hebron and North Burlington continue to grow. The kids' attitudes haven't changed a whole lot. One of the biggest advantages I think we have at Connor are our kids want to be liked. Our kids want to be liked by teachers. They want to be liked by others. We have very few scuffles at school. Kids tend to get along. We are very accepting. I have kids from all socioeconomic levels. And a lot of our kids, we have a huge advantage built in that about 90% of my kids go through Connor Middle School. So they know each other from sixth grade on, whereas a lot of the other schools, they're split up between Ackerman, Jones, Camp Ernst, and Valley. But a lot of our kids know each other for 3 years before they get to us. So our kids get along very well. They're molded by the middle school, which does a really good job. And once they get to us, we can really get them on a pathway to success, I think.
Yep.
That helps a lot.
So as far as the growth, like when I was there, I think my class was 242 students. So you're at 1,700 or 1,500.
Yeah.
So you're not that much more.
I'm running about 350 to 400 kids a class.
Okay, another 100.
Yeah. So we're getting crowded again. We've got 3 mobile units, so 6 classrooms. So I'm running 150 to 180 kids in mobile units each block.
Oh wow!
So we have outgrown our building, but at the height of our enrollment, we had 8. So I used to tease a friend of mine that taught at Ludlow that we had Ludlow High School in trailers at Connor High School because we had 8 mobiles, so 16 classrooms.
Yeah.
We were running 500 kids in mobiles. But now we're running about 150 kids in mobiles. But it's, again, I feel like we've got plenty of space now. And then with the growth of the early college program, the ATC across the street, a lot of our kids will leave our building for a portion of our day as well. So that helps too.
That is something that you mentioned that the ability to get some college credits in high school now. You hear kids like going into college as sophomores.
Yeah.
That's something new. I don't think that was available when I was there.
No, when I was there way back when, before you, the only way you could earn a college credit was through an advanced placement course. And we still have that pathway, which is really a higher level of pathway, I think. But a lot of our kids will go through what we call the early college program or the dual enrollment program. I've got kids that attend classes at Gateway, Northern, Thomas More, the University of Cincinnati, Morehead State, Murray State, and either they take it in our building remotely, or some of my teachers are certified to teach those courses as well. So it's not uncommon for us to graduate a kid with 30 plus hours of college. On the top end, we get some kids with 40, 50, 60 hours of college when they graduate. And we're running them through at about $242 a class.
Okay.
And they get their first 2 classes free. So my goal in that regard is to get kids exposure to college classes that they wouldn't have otherwise, so they can tell if college is for them or not.
Yes.
I have about 65 to 70% of my kids that want to go to college, but the other 30%, they might want to dabble in it, and then they decide they want to go into the military or a trade school or straight into the workforce. So we try to give them lots of pathways to get successful.
Yeah. So their first 2 college credit classes are free?
Correct, yeah. And that's through the Kentucky Higher Education Association. We don't
Okay,
have
so
anything.
they handle that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then after that, $250 per class?
Yep.
And that's saving people a ton of money.
It does. It saves parents a lot of money, and that's a huge advantage. But more than anything, our kids can get a lot of the basic classes out of the way,
Yep.
so that when they jump to college, they can jump into specialty classes and they don't get lost in the shuffle, so to speak. Anybody that's gone to a larger college knows when you take English 101 at UK or Louisville or any place like that, you're in a class of 75 to 100.
Yep.
It's easy to get lost in the shuffle. Whereas the kid that takes English 101 or 102 at Connor, they're in a class of 30 with one of my teachers.
Yep.
So they're getting more one-on-one time. So I think that exposes them to the higher level of education, but they still get the personalized touch that my teachers can give them.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great.
That was really cool.
It's great for
Those
kids.
They got more credits when they graduate high school than I did in
Yes.
4 years. The big thing is COVID. I know, like I said, I have 2 boys, 6th grade and 2nd grade now, but they were both in school during the COVID times.
Yeah.
And it was a nightmare. And I was sitting from my angle on my couch with a couple of kids that I had to do some homework for, right? Like, how big of a change was that for everything? I know it was huge.
Yeah.
But I don't think people understand what that was like for teachers.
Yeah, for
or
teachers.
administration.
And I was walking around my building today with a friend of mine, and I made the remark that the hallways were empty. I said, but this was nothing compared to when I walked around the building during COVID. I had 2 or 3 teachers coming in every day to teach from school because they didn't have the internet at home. But I would walk the building every day still during COVID, and the classrooms were empty.
Yeah.
So
Very awkward.
it was almost like walking through the movie The Shining or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really strange. But more than anything, I think what it did was it isolated kids.
Yes.
And when you've got kids at home, a lot of parents were still going to work at times. So I've got kids at home, roughly 1,400 kids on remote learning, and it's unstructured for them at home. The rules aren't there. They can kind of do things at their own pace, kind of do things on their own time. And you and I both know we were teenagers at one point.
Yes.
If we don't have somebody there to kind of give us structure and give us rules and tell us how this needs to be done, et cetera, things kind of fall by the wayside. Mm-hmm. So, we continued to get kids credits, and that's the service that we could provide, but what we couldn't provide for kids was the structure they needed.
Yes.
So coming back out of COVID for the last 18 months or so, it's been a challenge to get kids back into the structured environment and back into an environment where they can sit for 50, 60, 70 minutes at a time in a class.
Oh, never thought of that.
Yeah, whereas before they're taking class on their living room couch. They
Yep.
can get up and go get a drink when they want, go get snacks when they want, go to the restroom when they want. So it's been very challenging. Some kids have adjusted better than others, but I think in education we're going to see the effects of this for a long, long time.
Yes.
So it's very, very, very challenging. And for some teachers, teachers got used to not having the classroom management that they needed to do. So coming back and you throw into the fold that the kids are unstructured as well, that's a challenge for the teachers as well. So they kind of had to relearn the classroom structure, classroom environment, and that's not saying that they didn't know it, but it's a whole different ballgame when you're dealing with kids that haven't been in a school setting for 18 or 24 months.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember you get back in school after summer break or even after Christmas break for 2 weeks. Like it was kind of, everybody's a little different.
You got to kind of wrangle them again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine almost 2 years. Then in and out and back and forth. And
we went through a time period where we were out of school for a significant amount of time. We came back with masks, and then we went like 3 or 4 days without masks, and then COVID started spreading like crazy as far as the number of cases that we were having reported to us. So they took us completely back out. Then we came back with masks 3 or 4 months later, and it's no one's fault. It was just everybody wanted kids back.
Yeah.
But there were certain people that were afraid of the COVID, and they kept jerking us around. So it was hard. It was difficult for me. It was hard on teachers, and it was even harder on kids and parents.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So I had a hard time with the whole mask, no mask thing, and I was at home on my couch.
I was not a fan of masks. No, it made my life a whole lot more difficult.
I can't imagine. So you hit on this a little bit, but do you see any big changes like after COVID? I know we hear a lot about kids' mental health. Mm-hmm. Is there any new protocols or new counselors involved or anything like that?
We've got a significant number of kids that have social anxiety after COVID.
Yes.
A lot of the kids, like I said, were isolated. So we have what we call now at Connor a youth service center, which basically provides food, clothing, mental health counseling for kids, and it's a dedicated thing that we were able to get through a grant my first year.
That's awesome.
And we provide a lot of counseling just through our school counselors and also through some outside counselors that we bring in.
Yeah.
I couldn't begin to guess at a number of kids that have in-school counseling, but it's very, very, very significantly more than what we saw before COVID. And I think you see that with adults as well. I think this changed society. It makes things different. I don't know if it's better or worse. To me, it's just very, very different.
Yes.
Even with businesses, I know businesses are letting people work from home now. And that changes the environment as well. I think a lot of people got used to being isolated, and a lot of people haven't gotten used to going back into society. And you think about the time period when you're 14 to 17, that's hard enough, just going through a normal time period.
Yes.
And now I've got freshmen that haven't been in normal school since they were 6th graders. I've got teachers that are trained to teach freshmen who are on the social scale of a 7th grader, and that makes things hard for teachers, it makes things hard for kids. So we're trying to help them with their social maturity, helping them with their structure, and at the same time they're behind on learning.
Yes.
Because of all the time they missed in school. So one of the big things we hear about is catching up with a learning loss. And I don't know that we'll ever catch up with a learning loss. We just kind of have to make sure kids have their gaps filled in and get them ready for the next level of society, whether that be work, school, a trade. School has changed since I started too. We used to be strictly academic. Now we're almost more of a career center where we want to get kids ready for the next level again, whether you're going to the military, a trade school, college, the workforce. We try to provide pathways for all those things.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's very different.
What about vocational school? You kind of hear about there's like a new push to that's become a little more popular these days.
Sure.
Like everybody doesn't want to or need to go to college
Right.
and spend $100,000 in that.
Right.
But has there been a higher participation rate in that versus?
So we have a really good relationship with the area technology center across the street. That's what they used to call the vocational school.
Okay.
So our ATC provides, and I might miss one here, machine tool, welding, metal fab, auto, healthcare, and I think I'm missing one, but we get about 30 slots per grade for that. And the kids that we send to that place, to the ATC across the street, I can count on those 30 kids being what are called career ready when they're ready to graduate.
That's awesome.
Those kids are ready to go directly into the workforce, making very good money,
Yes.
very good money. And I think that's an area where every school system in the state could expand, because the way that we build in Northern Kentucky, those trades are always going to be high valued. I mean,
Yes.
if you talk to somebody that owns a welding business now or somebody that owns a machine tool business, they are constantly looking for workers that are trained. And a lot of those kids that come out of those programs are highly trained. One of the biggest challenges that the ATC faces is finding instructors for that. Because the instructors get paid at a teacher rate. Well, if they're a machine tool guy, they can go make
more money working.
3-4 times that working. So it's really hard to find teachers for those programs, really hard to keep those teachers for those programs. The people we have do a great job. And the challenge for the ATC across the street is keeping those teachers there. It's not an easy thing for her.
Well, what would be a perk for those people? Maybe somebody listening out there would be interested in that. Like, how's that work to be a teacher?
I think it's a great retirement gig,
Okay.
for someone that's done with the trade, that's ready to relax a little bit,
Yeah.
and wants to give back to their trade.
Yes.
These kids that you get in class, it's just like teaching AP U.S. history or teaching U.S. history or geography. These kids are going to be thankful to you for years to come. So a lot of the guys and girls that instruct over there are retired people, but they want to do it for 5-6 years and then they're done. And then again, the challenge is finding people that want to do that. And I'm sure, I don't have any stats on this, but the working age for those trades has probably extended because of the shortage of workers.
Yes.
So somebody that might have retired when they were 55 10 years ago, now they're working until they're 60 or 65. And now those people aren't looking to get into something like that. So that's a challenge for them. But every kid that we have that goes through those programs comes out better off. I mean, they do really good things.
And there's no teacher requirements for that. Like, you got to have, like, to be a or to be a substitute teacher, it used to be some hours?
Now I'm not real clear on that, to be honest with you. I think it's a certain number of years in that field.
Okay.
I think that's what the requirements are for the ATC.
That could be a lot of fun for somebody.
Oh,
Anybody's
yeah.
looking for a challenge out there, give back to the community a little bit. Everybody's talking about like labor shortage across the board, right?
Yep.
Almost everywhere. It's like people don't want to come back to work.
Correct.
Like commercial real estate space is completely different now because people are staying home. How has that been with teachers? Like as far as turnover rate of teachers before, maybe versus after, or has it just been a progression?
I think it's been a progression. But one of the challenges we see in education is a lot of our specialized fields in high school. So if you teach a high school subject, you're certified to teach that area. So if you're teaching elementary school, you're certified to teach everything. You can teach K through 5. For me to find a chemistry teacher, they have to be certified to teach chemistry, physics, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of the people that are going to college for things like that, you get a degree in chemistry or physics, well, you're being hired by Dow Chemical or GE or whomever. Again, you're making 3-4 times the amount of money that a teacher makes. Mm-hmm. So it takes really someone dedicated to young people and someone who wants to dedicate their life to helping young kids and face all of the challenges that we've talked about. So what I've seen over the past 5 years when I've been the head principal is the teaching pool, as far as the hiring pool, is getting shallower. If I needed a science teacher, if I needed a chemistry teacher or a physics teacher right now, I wouldn't find one coming out of college. I think Northern said they don't have anyone that's graduated with that degree in 3 or 4 years now. Wow. So you're really looking at other schools to kind of steal some of their teachers and things like that, which isn't fair to other schools. But for us to find science teachers is hard, and it's the same thing for math. You know, someone that graduates with a math degree could go into actuary science, engineering, things like that, make a lot more money than teaching. And it's a lot more, people consider those to be professional fields. I don't think some people consider it to be teaching professional, even though those of us that are in it know it's extremely professional. I think the answer is pay teachers more, respect them more, and those are the two big things that I think our governor's trying to get some of that done. Yep. But that's going to be a challenge because that's going to require taxpayer dollars, and nobody wants to pay higher taxes. So that's kind of the challenge we see. But I do see hiring pools getting significantly shallower.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have to come up with some money or something. We got to have some.
Yeah.
I never thought about it like that.
Some incentive for people to go into teaching.
Yes.
You know, teaching is extremely, extremely rewarding. The best times I had in my life were teaching kids, coaching kids. It's not that I don't like being a principal, but I like being a teacher more. But
you don't have that interaction with the students quite as much.
Right. I try to have a positive effect on teachers and other people that can have a positive effect on kids. So, but I do miss that daily interaction with kids that I don't get in the classroom of, teaching 3 classes of 30 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did you teach?
The last thing I taught was AP, U.S. history and global issues. I taught everything from geography to history to Eastern world to a lot of different things. In-school suspension, that was very different. So.
That is great.
Yep.
Talking about teachers again, but what do people not know? Kind of give your teachers a shout out.
Give my teachers a shout out.
Yeah.
Teachers, a lot of times I think get a bad rap of you only work 9 months a year.
We were just talking about that.
So the teachers that I have, and teachers across the board, teachers are working 12 months a year. Teachers are improving their ability to teach during the summer. They're going back to school to get their master's degrees. Kids leave my building at 2:45. I have teachers that work till 6, 7, 8 o'clock every single night. My teachers are extremely dedicated, extremely hardworking. They're in it for the kids. They're in it for the right reasons. I appreciate everything they do. We do great things for kids at Connor. We see freshmen coming in and going out the back end as a 12th grader. We see significant changes in kids for the better.
That's awesome.
And I think all the kids or all the teachers that I have in my building are pulling on that same rope of let's make kids' lives better. And that's what you have to be in the field for, because again, the pay isn't great. You want to see that reward of the kid coming out the back end and the kid coming back 3 and 4 years later and saying, hey, you made a difference in my life. And that's the very rewarding part of our field.
Yes. And it takes the right person, but that's in the groups for the Homes for Heroes, that's why I love it. So teachers go get a 4-year degree, 5, 6 years, because you got to get your master's, right?
Yep.
How is that? How many years do you have to get your master's?
Well, they've taken away that requirement. It used to be you had to get it in 10. When Matt Bevin was governor, he took that off to kind of open up the field a little bit. Mm-hmm. But you can still get your master's, and that gets you a pay raise, and it gets you more marketable. A lot of my teachers will get a master's degree in a different field to where they can teach a different subject or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it helps you in the long run in terms of the financial gain, but it also makes you more marketable to other schools.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a great group of people, and I'm happy to do what I do with that group.
Right.
But because of that, you could go to college for that long, you can go get a job making a lot more money somewhere else.
Right.
But you're kind of taking a little nick to get in there and help our youth.
Who was your favorite teacher? I'm going to throw a question at you.
My favorite teacher. Mr. L was pretty cool. I had a bunch of them. Thomas was cool. I never had you in class.
I thought that you would go with Sue Sorrell.
Yeah. So we had the bank class back then.
Yeah.
Got to eat all 3 lunches. And I was a mini loan guy. So if I didn't have their lunch money, I'd give them $2 and they had to pay me $2.25 back the next day.
There you go. So you were making money even back then.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun in bank class with Miss Sorrell.
I remember that.
For sure.
Yep. I heard from her the other day.
Did you?
Yeah.
I haven't heard from her in years.
Yeah.
She give her a shout. Maybe she'll see this.
She actually was part of the school up until about 3 or 4 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. She stayed in it. She was in it for the right reason. She was a good lady.
She loved the kids.
Loved kids.
She cared about us, so you could tell.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I liked her.
Yep.
And I got to eat all 3 lunches and talk to my friends.
I remember the bank.
So Connor High School, my alma mater, your alma mater, you're the principal there now, but my 2 boys will go to Connor.
Okay.
But I've been hearing tons of good things about Connor from people outside of the Connor school district.
Okay.
Which I really like to hear. They talk about the kids and how they get along, and just a lot of props for the Connor kids.
Yeah, I think our kids are very unique in that they get along with each other. I mean, I hear stories from other principals in my district about one of the biggest problems they see in their school is discipline. We don't have a lot of discipline issues. We have sometimes there's some classroom management issues with kids that don't want to stay in class for 90 minutes. We're on a block schedule, which is a little bit different for kids. But our kids, again, they want to be liked and they want to get along with each other. And sometimes I tease our football coach, our kids are too nice.
The football coach, wrestling coach.
Yeah, sometimes you want some animals out there, but our kids tend to get along with each other. It takes a lot to get our kids riled up. A lot. We have tremendous kids.
Well, I don't know if you remember my little brother, Austin.
Oh, yeah.
So he's 18 years younger than me, so I don't even know what year. I graduated in 98.
So he was 16?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that would be right.
Yeah.
But I always tease, like when I was in middle school especially, but then high school, there was a fight like every day, right? And then we'd go to the Oak Brook, or I always had practice, so I missed a bunch of them.
Yeah, go to Boone Woods and fight.
Yeah, Boone Woods, so there's always that. But I tell Austin about this, and he was like, that never happened.
No.
Which is a good thing, I think.
Well, it's good from my perspective.
Yeah.
You know, again, if I can get a couple kids that are mad at each other in my office and sit them down and talk, one of the things I'll stress to them is, you know, is whatever you're mad at each other going to matter in 5 or 10 years? Is it really going to matter? And once you look at it from that perspective, kids tend to calm down. Kids see the bigger picture. You know, the conflict resolution we try to get through with kids. Again, you know, fighting's not the way of the world. That's not what you want to have happen out in the real world. That's not what we want to have happen in our school.
Right.
And then one of the advantages we had to like when you were there as well is we have a school resource officer in our building now as well. So I have access to law enforcement really quickly. But he'll only get involved if there's a law violation. I don't use him for discipline at all. But that's another big advantage is we've got some extra added protection for stuff like that as well.
That is awesome. It's good to hear that old alma mater's doing good.
We do exceptionally.
Being ran well.
Yeah, well, I like to think I do a good job. It's good to hear from other people that they feel like I do a good job. And again, I'm very proud. I've been there for a long, long time. I'll end my career at that place, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I've got a really good group of support staff, teachers, kids, parents. We do really good things in Hebron, North Burlington, and Petersburg.
I like it. And you're one I know from when I was there, but you care about the kids, like somebody that's doing it for the right reason.
If you spend 27 years in education like I have and you don't do it for the kids, you're going to be a miserable person.
Yes.
And one of the things, I like to go to work every single day. I like to see kids succeed. I like to see teachers improve. I like to see teachers get along with kids, and we see that product out the back end. One of the biggest pride points that I have at Connor is a lot of alma mater come back to teach.
That is cool.
So, you know, we have probably 8-9 people on staff out of the 70 people I have on staff as far as teachers that are from Connor. So that's a huge pride point for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's cool. But your kids.
Yeah.
So you're the principal of your own kids.
I am.
How does that go?
I think it's more normal for me. I think sometimes for them it can be a little bit awkward if they have someone come up to them and say, hey, your dad's the principal, and what's going on with this, that, the other. But my kids have adjusted very well. They do pretty well in school. They do very well in school. They get along with other kids. I'm very proud of who my kids are. My kids do really good things. One's involved in the theater. My son was on the state-winning cross-country team this past year. He wasn't on the varsity team, but he picked up running this past summer, and he's improved dramatically. He's doing really good things with the cross-country team.
That's
so
awesome.
My kids have embedded themselves in the school some. I'm proud of that. I embedded myself as a student in there, and clearly as an adult I have as well. So if my kids have the same experience there that I had, I'll be a very happy man.
Yep. I enjoyed my time, for sure. Go back maybe sometimes.
Wouldn't that be great?
But
Wouldn't that be great to go back and do a few things different?
yeah, I'd probably do it all the same. So speaking of kids and my kids, talk to us parents out there. As far as kids, raising kids, getting them ready for school, what's maybe some stuff that I could do as a parent or parents could do in general to hear from a principal?
I think one of the biggest things parents can do is just ask their kid every day on a daily basis, what did you do in school today? How are you doing in school today? Do you have any homework in school today? Stay involved with it and stay in touch with what their kids are studying. I think a lot of kids want that, whether they admit it or not. They want parents involved in their life. More often than not, if we have trouble with a kid at school, we see parents that are not as involved. And parents that are involved with their kids' education, whether it be through school, whether it be through sports, whether it be through involvement in our PTSO, a lot of parents that stay involved with their kids are better off for it. Mm-hmm. So I think the majority of my parents are like that. I think the biggest challenge in the next 5 to 10 years for education, we're going through a period right now where vaping is very prevalent. I went through a professional development last week where a lot of the drugs that kids are exposed to now are not illegal. So, you see the THC vapes and things like that, but if you go into any corner store, any vape shop, You'll see drugs that have different names than THC, and they're not illegal, but kids have access to them.
Yep.
So I think the more parents can educate themselves about things like that as well, that'll help them steer their kids on the right path for life. Because things that are available to kids now, and even when you were in school and I was in school, even 10 years ago, are very, very different. Kids face a lot of challenges now.
They do.
Yeah.
Even with the cell phones. I'm so glad that I did my time in my youth before cell phones came out.
If people would have taken pictures of what you and I would have done in high school, we would have been in trouble.
It would have been bad. You're welcome, Mom.
Amen.
But yeah, you bring up the vape, like, it's like there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, because it's at the corner store, right?
Yep.
Like by my day, it was weed or pills, but that was bad. You couldn't just go get it. You had to go make a shady deal somewhere.
Yeah.
Illegal. But now you can just get that stuff. You got an older brother, it's 18.
Or someone that'll sell it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different world, and we try to educate kids in that regard. And I'm trying to set up some educational classes for parents as well.
Yeah.
Because even before last week, before I was exposed to some of the stuff that they told us about, I didn't know about a lot of the stuff. And then I walked into a vape shop they opened 300 yards from my school last month, and it's all right there. So there's a lot of things that kids can get their hands on that are extremely dangerous. They are dangerous to kids.
Yep.
And that concerns me.
And they don't realize it because it's in a pretty package that says whatever, tropical punch.
Exactly.
And it's not good.
Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of wraps it up here for us.
All right.
So I'd like to thank you for coming on. And everybody, it's his coach, principal, Andy Wyckoff.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome.